This week's Torah portion tells us that Joseph had 11 brothers, 10 of whom were not from his same mother, and they hated him. And why did they hate him? Because he showed that he deserved to be above them, because God had given him dreams of prominence. And the Torah tells us they hated him for his dreams of grandeur and his words. Now, what were the words that he said? So some people say because he said bad things about them. It's my opinion that they were upset that he actually communicated his dreams. For you see, one of two things happened. Either the dreams were a prophecy, or the dreams were foolish imagination. If the dream is a prophecy, why would he communicate his dreams of prophecy to his brothers? And I'll tell you in a second. The answer is because if a prophecy is not articulated, if it's not told, it won't take place. And so Joseph got the prophecy, and he thought it was obligatory upon him to say it in order that it take place. The brothers believed that it was just a figment of his imagination, but they resented the fact that he told them, because you see, prophecy, unless specifically stated that you're allowed to tell it, you're not allowed to go ahead and tell someone that you had prophecy. And this is found in many different places in the Torah. Most notably, Abraham was told by God that he was going to have a child, and Sarah, when she finds out she's supposed to have a child, doesn't believe it. Now, why shouldn't she believe it if 3 days earlier Abraham was told the same thing? Why didn't Abraham communicate to Sarah that she was going to have a child with him? The answer is, and this is an answer for many other questions in the Torah, unless you're specifically told to say to someone, you're not allowed to communicate it. And so the brothers resented it for a number of reasons, for two reasons. Number one, they believed this to be a figment of Joseph's imagination, that he was going to be superior to them. But on the second note, they knew that unless told by God, you're not allowed to communicate. So why did he communicate? The only reason for him to communicate is because he was afraid that unless articulated, the prophecy would not take place. And that's a horrible thing. He should have been more humble and say to God, I'm glad that I'm supposed to be better than the others, but I'd rather just be an ordinary Jew, just like my brothers. Instead, he wanted to lord over them. And so they hated him for his words. So remember, words are very powerful. Information of words are very powerful. The more information you have, the more power you have. But not always are you allowed to communicate what you know. Case in point, there was an outbreak of people suddenly dying as if by a plague in Guam in the early 60s. The army was looking for reasons why people were dying. Many people were dying for no apparent reason. And so they sought out the world's biggest expert on rare diseases, and they discovered that in Boston there was a graduate student, a doctor, who was perhaps in rare diseases the world's biggest expert. He was young, inexperienced, but nonetheless the biggest expert. So they approached him and said, young man, Dr. So-and-so, let's call him Dr. Goldberg, we want you to go to Guam and find out why people are dying. Of course, that's my calling. I'm an expert in rare diseases. And so he comes home to pack, and his mother asks him, Yossel, Joey, why are you packing? I'm going to Guam, Ma. Guam? What are you doing in Guam? Is that a new place for vacation? He says, no. People are dying for no reason, and the army asked me to go find out why they're dying. People are dying for no apparent reason in Guam, and my only son is going to go there over my dead body. You're not going. I got to go. You're not going, said his mother. And this went back and forth, and finally she says, you're not going unless you get a blessing from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And this was the early 60s, and it was still possible to see the Rebbe on short notice. And so he calls up, he says, there's an emergency, people are dying in Guam, and I need to see the Rebbe. And he was given, within a couple of weeks, a short wait, and he was able to see the Rebbe. When he came to see the Rebbe, he told the Rebbe his reason for asking a blessing, because his mother would not let him go. Even though she wasn't religious, she would not let him go to Guam, where people are dying like flies, because he's an only son. She's not letting her only son die. So the Rebbe said, no problem, you're allowed to go, but I want to tell you something. The information that I'm about to tell you, you're not allowed to reveal it to anyone under any circumstance. And the Rebbe pulled out a map of the oceans and pulled out a map of Guam. And the Rebbe pointed out how the island is geographically situated. And the Rebbe pointed out a particular point on the island, where certain tides move in and out. And the Rebbe said, I want you to come to a certain point in the island at low tide, and I'm going to tell you exactly when you'll see the sun at this elevation, and the moon will be sighted at a different elevation, a similar elevation on different sides. That's when I want you to go out to that beach. When you see them in that particular point, I want you to go out into the shallows, and I want you to dig up the shellfish. And then the Rebbe said to him, he showed him how all of the oceans are interconnected. And the Rebbe said, it is my belief that the Red Chinese have detonated an atomic bomb, and the people are being poisoned by the radioactivity that's coming, sweeping across the island. Sure enough, he gets there, hires a boat, comes to that point on the island when it's low tide, and you can see the sun and the moon at certain angles. And exactly in that point, he goes out, takes the shellfish, examines it, and they were poisoned, radioactive poisoning. Every 2 weeks, one of the restaurants was sending a boat to that particular point in the island, digging out the shellfish and feeding it, and people were dying who were frequenting that non-kosher restaurant. He never told the Atomic Energy Commission anything about it, but he gave his findings to the Army, and when they stopped getting the shellfish from that area, people stopped dying. Only 6 months later did the Atomic Energy Commission confirm that they had evidence that the Red Chinese had detonated an atomic bomb. The doctor, many years later, revealed this, about 20 years later, afterwards, revealed the whole story to his friends and to acquaintances. And he said, remarkably, there was a rabbi sitting in Brooklyn who knew more about what was going on in the Pacific than the entire U.S. Army and the Atomic Energy Commission. And that's the meaning that if you have knowledge, you are not allowed to share it with anyone except for those who need to know, who can do something about it. Information and divination, prophecy, these are gifts. The gifts have to be judiciously used. You can't just go ahead and let anyone know that which you know, which is supposed to be secret.